Okay, bear with me because I'm just starting to formulate all of my thoughts here, and I'm going to be speaking entirely off the cuff. And I think I'll probably spend some time reading up on these subjects a bit better and have a more well articulated and organized video in the future. But I want to get my thoughts out there and see what you think. I don't actually think we need a Joe Rogan or a Charlie Kirk of the left. Right, the Unfuck America tour, Gavin Newsom going on Charlie Kirk's podcast, all of those white influencer podcast bros who really saw Charlie Kirk as like their colleague. They wanted to be a more palatable version of what Charlie was and reach a centrist liberal audience. We don't need that. We never needed that. I don't know why it is that centrists and liberals and the political left in the United States are so intent on being like, we got to copy what MAGA does. We just need our own version of MAGA. And in doing so, they platform these guys, they debate these guys, they legitimize them, they expose them to an audience of potentially millions. And I personally think they facilitate the radicalization of more young men. They amplify the message of the alt-right. They don't actually counter it at all. I think the answer is not how do we duplicate what the right is doing, but just like our version of it on the left. I think we need something very, very different. The more I've been talking with my teenage and young adult children, and the more I've been reading about Black Pill, Nick Fuentes, Groyper, meme war, 4chan culture, I knew some of it, but I didn't know nearly as much as my kids did. The more we're learning about how Charlie Kirk's alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson, may be from that far right, chronically online ecosystem and not on the political left at all, that what we're seeing may be right on right violence, right? Two factions on the right, one far more extreme than the other. Red pill versus black pill, right? These guys are both operating far down the alt-right pipeline. It's just that Charlie Kirk was here and Nick Fuentes is further along all the way down here. And I think it was my mutual Imani the other day who said that there is no alt-left pipeline. And I totally agree with her. Like you can't just make a left version of Charlie Kirk or Joe Rogan and think that that's going to unfuck America. And again, I haven't fully formed all my thoughts yet here, so I understand Hassan Piker fills an important role here. I gotta think more about that. But he still isn't a Charlie Kirk or a Joe Rogan of the left. He doesn't have those people on and debate them. He's not a Dean Withers. He doesn't legitimize and platform them that I know of. I'm not a Twitch streamer. I just watch clips and then I get all of the deets from two of my kids who are huge Hassan Piker fans. I think what we actually need on the political left, I think what we need to counter the alt-right pipeline is that we need a way to counter the nihilism of young men in the United States. I really think the alt-right pipeline is a nihilistic pipeline. We know that the black pill, 4chan, meme war, incel movement is a nihilistic movement. So then what we need to do is to figure out how to offer an alternative to nihilism, how to help these young men who feel that like we're completely fucked, right? And they want to just accelerate the end times or like everything's terrible, so we may as well cause chaos, like a real kind of ugly version of anarchy. These young men need something to care about, to hope for, to strive for. They need to feel a sense of purpose and a sense of like there is a life worth living. And again, I'm just starting to think about all of these ideas, and I'm sure there's people who have much more experience in this area and can help guide me in figuring out like what does that look like? I don't know. We need a way to help these young men. Their nihilism is coming from somewhere. It's coming from living in late stage capitalism in a climate change reality where the working class is just, we're really fucking oppressed by the super rich. So what do we offer these young men that's different? Not just like the left's version of what the right is doing, but an actual solution, something that actually speaks to their issues, to their problems, to their fear, to the ways that they are jaded and hopeless and just full of rage. Like how do we address that in a real thoughtful, meaningful, and effective way? How do we counter nihilism? And what is it on the left that we are even offering these young men? Why would they want to come over here? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of the recent controversy about dark money on it's not really the political left, y'all, among centrist and like liberal democratic influencers and people who called themselves journalists and the new media who take dark money, and how they're like, well, the right does that exponentially more than we do it, right? There's been tons of dark money pouring into the right for years and years, not just from billionaires, but also from foreign interest. A lot of these alt-right influencers, podcast bros, what have you, they are funded with just obscene amounts of money. And there has been this perception that the political left, and also, like, again, really, the folks that we're talking about they're not really on the left. They're pretty mainstream centrists. It's just that the Overton window has shifted so far to the right that they seem like they're on the left, but really they're kind of like neoliberal establishment types, right? Who are like, we need some of that money. We need money to be competitive. So we know we've been saying we should overturn Citizens United. We know we've been saying that dark money is really unethical. We've been talking about it for a long time, how outraged we are at all of this dark money that is pouring into right-wing politics and right-wing influencers. But then, like, we need that version for us on the left, right? It's this whole false notion that there are good billionaires, right? There's no good billionaires. There's no good dark money. It is wealthy people behind the scenes who have their own agenda, who are buying your influence over your audience of however many hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers. We decried that when it was on the right, but on the center and the left, we're like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We need an even playing field here, right? And my response at the time, and something I've seen from a couple of other creators as well, I don't think the answer is for the left to secretly take dark money the way that the right does. I think the answer is actually radical transparency. I think the answer is not for us to try and duplicate what the right is doing, but to actually do something that counters it. Should we be funded over here? Yeah, absolutely. Should people make a living wage doing real work on social media? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, after all, these platforms are making gobs of money off of us. But I'm never going to think that the answer is to take what the right has done, which has been very successful for them, right? That's brought about the horrible reality that we're living now. And y'all, we got to have more imagination than that. We have to have better problem solving than just being like, hey, whatever the right is doing, we should do it too, but not as well funded and not as sophisticated. I don't know. I just feel like we're consistently seeing this failure to counter what MAGA is doing by just trying to replicate our own version of what it's not a replication, y'all. It's like a poor facsimile. It's a lame imitation of what they're doing and thinking that that's going to be a winning strategy. I think we need to look for very, very different solutions, right? I really think things like radical honesty, radical transparency, hope, a future to believe in, empowering people. I don't know, I'm just starting to formulate my thoughts, but I'm so frustrated with how many times since November we've just seen we've got to have a blah, blah, blah of the left. We've got to have a version of what the right is doing, but on the left, and believing that that's going to be a winning strategy. We got to be more creative and adaptive than that. And I'm not really sure what that looks like yet. I want to do a whole lot more reading over the next couple of days. And I would really be open to your suggestions or people that you think who have expertise in this area. Because I really think at the end of the day, us being like, hey, we need to do what they're doing, but slightly different, just ends up with us having closer proximity to them, trying to be like them. And I think it actually helps MAGA, it helps the alt-right, and it obviously hurts us, right? Whatever money billionaires are throwing at us or funneling through opaque sources to us, they're never going to have the best interest of the working class at heart. They're going to have confirmation to their worldview and their plans and what protects their profit and their wealth. And a Joe Rogan, dude bro, debate bro, Charlie Kirk style guy on the left, we have a lot of those. All they end up doing is platforming the Charlie Kirks of the world and exposing alt-right MAGA content to a wider audience. So I would love to know what you think, and I'm going to spend some time on it myself.